everything in this game is situational. You know, just moving a foot forward or a foot backwards, or adding a wall a little bit to the left or the right. I mean, it could change everything. And change your whole game plan. So it's like, what could work for one stage might not work for another one, even though they're similar. I mean, just the smallest minute difference might, completely change what you were doing. So, yeah, it's always situational. Well, what do you got, Keita?
I was going to say we should let Grant say something. He hasn't been talking a whole lot.
I've been trying, Mike.
I can't help it. It's just my nature.
No, it's fine. But with the breaks and that, do you find yourself taking like a smaller break after like a major, like nationals? Do you like take 2 or 3 weeks or something, or do you just go straight back into work?
Yeah, so I don't. During the course of the season, and again, this is what I've found so far that's worked for me. I didn't take a break until 2 years ago. So I've got 2 examples of this working successfully. That's it. Like, this is by far not like, hey, I've been doing this forever and this is what's perfect. But, so for me, I like to hunt. I like to trap. And so from like November until January here, I'm thinking about like, I can just change my mental focus and get out into the woods. And then it's totally different speed, totally different. Everything is different. And so, but while I'm in shooting mode, like if I have a major and at that major, I'm going to learn a bunch. I'm going to learn a bunch about my mental match management. I'm going to learn a bunch about just general shooting proficiency or gaps. I'm going to learn about gear, what I didn't really like, maybe for some application on my belt setup, like you name it. I'm going to take all the things that I learned that I made a mental note of. And like Monday or Tuesday when I'm home, I'm applying whatever that was, because if I don't learn something from the things that held me back at that event, and I just walk into the next one, I'm like, oh, that happened again. Like that is how you don't win. Like that is how you fail. And so as much as possible, I'm trying to learn something and immediately apply it and make it part of how I shoot, and then carry that right into the next event. I mean, I shoot a major, something that I think is worth shooting like every month from the whole season that I'm shooting, sometimes 2 a month. And so it is, if I take any breaks in that, I'll lose some of that visual speed, and then I'll lose, really some of that focus. And I don't want to lose that focus during the middle of the season.
Now, I don't take you as a guy who would watch scores during a major match, but what is your take on that?
Watch sports?
Watching scores.
Like live scoring.
Oh, watch scores. I was like, sports? Yeah, I don't watch sports. Scores.
I don't either.
Yeah, actually I do.
You do?
So in a little bit. So what I really enjoy is the last few years here in the U.S. because here's why. I never used to watch scores because I didn't care, because it doesn't matter. What matters is my performance. Okay. That said, someone's coming up to me the next morning going, "You're crushing it." Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So like I already know anyway. Or somebody's like, "Yeah, you got him by 20 points," or "He's got you by 30 points. What are you going to do to make?" Like, there's no escaping knowing what the score is on day 2 or day 3. Like, you're going to. Okay. So what you have to learn to do is learn not to let that consume you, but I'm going to glance at it. I want to know where I'm at, especially if I am shooting on a different schedule or shooting on different squads than my primary competition. Now, over the last couple of years here in the U.S., we have a bunch of rock stars in our shooting community, and we like to butt heads, and we like to go head-to-head and be on the same squad, and it's fun. I enjoy it. We'll get done, be like, I got you by 10%, and it's just fun. Like, we go after each other a little bit. I enjoy that too, but at the same point, it's an art to walk up to the line and not let that negatively affect your shooting performance, because when you are shooting and it's your turn to shoot, nothing that anyone else did matters at that point, because now it's about you executing. And so that's a difficult line, but there's no escaping knowing what the score is, like, because someone's going to tell you. And so I've just become okay with it, and I've become in a position where I'm like, okay, no matter what it is, I'm going to execute. it is what it is.
Now, do you ever
stand by? Oh yeah, especially for a while. You have to start. You can't.
Now, do you ever change your tactics based on scores if you're significantly behind or significantly ahead? Does anything change for you?
Nope, not when I'm ahead, for sure. I just shoot. You know, that's a position where no risks beyond the risks I'm totally comfortable with anyway are needed. I'm just going to shoot. If I'm way behind, again, I'm just going to shoot. I'm going to be proud of my performance from the point where I screwed something up that took me out of the mix to the finish of the match, so that I can walk into my next event feeling confident that I executed even after an issue happens. If I am a couple percent behind and there's a chance that a Hail Mary puts me in the win, I'll always take a swing at first over a casual second or third, even if that means a fourth or a fifth. Okay, like I was going to be pissed in second. So I'm like, whatever, you know, I do want to know before that last stage, like, all right, is it a percent? Is it 3? Is it close? Could I, if I just destroyed this thing, pull it off? And if the answer is yes, full send. You know, who cares?
Full
At that
send.
point, it's like, yeah, you know. But again, that's a balancing act, because it's like, I know what I can get away with responsibly on a stage, and it's pretty odd that shooting above that is going to go positively. But like already in second, all right, send it, see what happens.
But if you don't take any risks, you've already lost. I mean, you have to take some
for
risks.
sure.
Yeah, I want scores. I want
especially
scores
close like
all
that.
the time. For me, it adds more pressure not knowing what everybody else is doing, because in my, you know, everybody messes up a little bit when, and people might not notice it from like the third person, but you know, when you're shooting, you know, when you're making mistakes, and you're like, man, you know, just in my head, I always have it like, well, Josh is just shooting perfect every single stage. But like now that I can like look at it and say, oh, look, he messed one up potentially a little bit too. Like, all right, so there is a chance. So I feel much better knowing where everybody's at, because it just kind of like, you know, takes me out of my own head a little bit.
Oh, that mess up on stage 6 didn't cost me as much as I thought it did, kind of
Right,
thing.
exactly. No, 100%. Because I'm like, you know, especially in PCC, there's not that much, not that there's not that much heat, but like, you know who the guys are that are shooting PCC that are the top guys, and you know who's going to be winning. And it's like, you know, here's the group of 15, 20 people that are seriously competitive and like, you know, kind of want to see where everybody's at around here. So you can kind of see, you know, if you really crush a stage and, you know, oh, look, you know, God forbid it ever happened. I'm not sure that it ever has, but I beat Josh by 10% on a stage. Like, you know that you're going to be making up some points on that stage. So it takes a little bit of pressure off, right? So like, you just by comparing yourself to the other people that you know, like on average, now obviously everybody has a bad stage. So if you happen to have a bad stage, Josh, on that one, and everybody else had a good one, I'd compare it against them. But like, you know, generally speaking, like, where is everybody's hit factor compared to mine? And it kind of just, it helps me. I love looking at scores. Like I sit there and I watch practice score all day. I just hit refresh.
I know, but you get stuck up here with it.
I'm getting better. I'm getting better with it though. So from the last time we shot, you know, yeah, I would agree that it was in my head. But now the last time we shot, I had driven 14 hours out to Missouri. There was a pretty big commitment to everything that went into that match. And, you know, so it was like, you know, I just really didn't want to suck. Like, you know, it's not like I drove an hour away from home and I'm, you know, shooting a major, like, whatever, I'll just drive home and, you know, tomorrow's another day. So yeah, no, that one sucked a little bit. But I can say that I'm getting better at it. I mean, you know, I did take your advice, and I switched my zero, and I'm not as mental as I used to be. It kind of is what it is. But I think that just kind of comes with experience now. Like, I'm not nearly as nervous when I go to majors as I used to be. Like, if we went in and I'm shooting together, it would just be, you know, I would love to shoot together with you again, because I mean, I always
No, don't shoot with him. You'll end up on crutches.
Yeah. Apparently. So my last 2 IPSC matches I went to, Josh, the you know, Keita ended up on crutches in Aruba, and then when I just got back from Puerto Rico a couple weeks ago, where the owner of Da Vinci was on crutches after we were walking stages. So Keita seems to think that it's me, and I'm the one causing people to go on crutches.
Don't shoot a match with Mike.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I'd love to get back out there and shoot with you. You know, I mean, you know, I'm always gunning for you, and that's why, you know, I respect you when you say that you're always out there to win, because I am too. But that's what, you know, I like seeing you do well. I'm sure it's, you know, and when you crush a stage, it's awesome for me to watch in the same way it is, I'm sure, for you to watch somebody else crush a stage. So it gets.
So
me
what
pumped
happens?
up, you know?
Sorry, Mike, go
No,
ahead.
you're good. Keep going. You're
What
good.
happens in your head when you do win? Are you motivated to go out
Hold
and
on.
practice?
Better. I have a
train?
better way to say this because I asked this question. So I didn't. So for everybody that thinks like, oh, where'd you read that? I have my own answer to this that I came up with, but I have a question for you that kind of Keith is asking. Do you like winning or do you hate losing? Let me ask you that. And I'm going to tell you my answer after you give me your answer.
That's a pretty good question, or way to put it. So I always assumed, okay, like my whole life, that like there was just the next event was going to be like that checkbox where you're like, woo, made it. Now like everything changes. And, you know, I actually left World Shoot after winning going like, that's it. Like, okay.
Now what?
Cool. Now what? Yeah. That was it. And so I think the answer is I hate losing more than I need to win because, you know, you just feel like you come up short. And so after a win, I guess I'm maybe less motivated for the next event to train hard than I am if I came up just a little close, just a little short. And so I you know, maybe last year, I've got a good example of a guy that drove me. So there's a kid named John Waddell. He just joined the AMU marksmanship unit last year. He's local to me in Minnesota, and he's arguably the best open shooter in 3-gun on the planet. And he's like 17. And he's got his whole life ahead of him, and he's a little athlete. Anyway,
These darn kids.
like 15 out. Yeah, and local. So I go to a local match. You expect to crush everybody by like 30%. I got this 16-year-old kid that was right on my heels, and fun to compete with. But like, you know, I coasted probably for a bit of 2019 until he started taking the win. And like, holy cow! Talk about getting fired up. Like, I'm like, this kid cannot beat me at this next match. You know, so it's like, whew, yeah, I don't like to lose. I'd say that's probably the thing. Versus,
Yeah, I agree. I always said the same thing. I said I hate losing more than I like winning because I just expect to win. So like when you win, that's just kind of like what I had in my head before the match. Like, you know, like it's just
sweet.
It all happened the way it was supposed to happen. So it, you know, on to the next one. So yeah, no, I definitely hate losing more than I like winning.
So have you ever gotten yourself into sort of a funk where, you know, most of the time when you lose, it motivates you, it drives you, but have you ever had just that, I just don't even want to go to the range after not doing as well as you had hoped?
Yep, for sure. And I'll tell you, for me, it's about being on the road too long, typically, or shooting too many matches in a row without enough training in the middle. And so no real chance to apply the things you learn in the middle, but just going and, you know, it's not going well, it continues not going well, it gets worse. So like I used to go on the road for 5 and 6 week in a row trips and shoot 4 or 5 majors, and then travel in between to the next place. And I'd find that if, you know, the first match or two didn't go the way I'd hoped, that the whole trip would just be a total loser. And I would just leave that trip, you know, not motivated, not excited anymore, not improving. And so I actually had to stop doing it because to me that didn't make sense. So that's where I started to just do these like once a month, train 3 weeks, go to a match, you know, have a couple weeks downtime to train and apply the things I learned between the events. Because that way, if it goes negatively, okay, I learned something. What did I learn? How did I get better because of it? Okay, apply that at the next event versus just going and shooting another event and then have that snowball effect of negativity just follow me right into the next event. I don't want that. That's not fun.
Yeah, a lot of the listeners have the question for you, what do you do in your Dryfire? What do you do in your Livefire? So it sounds like you take things that you maybe made a mistake on during a match and set that up as a drill? Or what else do you do for your Dryfire and Livefire?
Yep. Yeah, so Dryfire is pretty straightforward, actually. It's about precision for me, for more than anything. So, you know, like not only do I want to draw in 0.8 seconds and be on target in the acceptable sight picture, but like I want to be on a pinpoint when I come up out of the holster. Like I want it to be perfect, no adjustment. Like I'm working on perfecting my skills in Dryfire because again, I've got no recoil to deal with. Grip kind of doesn't matter. I mean, it does because we make it matter, but like it doesn't because you don't have a gun that's going off in your hand. And so like to me, Dryfire is really about I do a little bit of position work, come into position hard, gun up on target type stuff. And it's really about precision, fine-tuning details. And then when I live fire, I'm simply adding on top of that. I expect exactly the same sight picture precision. I expect all of the same precise movements, but now I'm introducing live fire into it. And what I end up doing is, yes, I'll find drills that can help eliminate whatever challenge that I faced or help me work through whatever difficulty that I dealt with at some match. And then I just build. So, let's say, that I had a challenge with, one of the biggest shooting discipline pieces of the shooting sports that you got to be good at is being able to transition with different speed on different targets, right? Acceptable sight picture, acceptable trigger press, depending on the target difficulty. Okay. Well, I get into a mode where I'm just fast, and not worried about that. Maybe you got three targets that are like 7 yards, and then you've got a popper at 25. Like one of the most difficult things to do in the shooting sports. Drive hard on those 3 targets up close, precise shot, pop, hit, and out, right? And so, like, if I noticed that I had a makeup on those difficult shots, or I noticed that I threw a miss on those difficult shots after driving hard, okay, I'm going to start. That's how I'm going to set drills up when I get back. I'm going to run 1 target precise, 1 target precise. Okay, that's going well. 2 targets precise. Okay, 2 targets precise, 2 targets precise. Build on the drill. Movement, come into position, shooting fast, and then precise. Like I'm going to keep building on that until it's like match flow speed. And match flow, I can execute in the middle of a big drill with lots going on and still execute on that skill. Now I'm like, okay, this is ready for the match. So I'll find the little detail that caught me, and I'll start with a small drill, and then I'll build that into something bigger that addresses that while I've got to think about a bunch of other things to see if I've actually got it. So that's, my live fire sessions start super simple, a couple, 2, 3 targets tops, and by the end of each session, I'm shooting a pretty big array of targets and mixing that skill in somewhere in the middle to make sure I still get it, even though I'm doing a bunch of other stuff.
And when you practice a drill, do you like to change something up from one run to the next, or do you practice the same exact thing a couple times in a row and then switch it up, or what do you do that way?
Yeah, so I like to build on it. So I'll shoot the same thing until I feel like I did it. Like I did it right. Okay, so if I'm shooting 2 on paper and then 1 popper at 30 yards, not only do I want the 2 center alpha punches, again, I'm shooting 2 up close. This is practice. I'm shooting for precision. Like I'm going to be squirrelier in the match. So not 2 alphas isn't good enough. I want 2 alphas in the middle. And then I want center punch that target at 30 yards. Like when that happens, and I do that a couple times in a row, I'm like, okay, relax. What's the build? What's the next thing? Okay, I got that. Like I know how to do it. I have the confidence that I can execute on it. Now, what's the next thing? How do I build on that to see if I still have it, even when I make the drill a little bit more complex? Right. So until I execute on whatever the goal was, though, to the point where I'm happy, I mean, I've shot 2 targets for an hour straight. And then it was like, all right, I'm not learning. This is not going the way I wanted. I need a break. Come back tomorrow. So like I typically build confidence, build the shooting skill on the thing that I'm working on, and then grow and expand that drill to see if I still caught that thing that I initially started to work on.
Okay.
Interesting. The time doesn't matter for you. It's more just a feeling and what the targets are, right? Yep. I mean, you're running a timer, I guess, but I mean, like, so it sounds like to me though, it's more about like, I need it to feel good and I need the hits to be good on paper, and then I'm good with it. It doesn't really matter in practice what the time is. Yeah. That's smart.
Timer's cool from if you don't know if it's good or not, like, and you want to compare it. I don't know about you guys, but I have a couple of peers that I'll leverage, and I'll go, hey, here's what I do this in. What do you do it in? I don't know. I'll tell you next time I go to the range. You know, LPRES, classifiers are great examples of ways that you can just kind of double check. Do I have this or not? Like, it feels good to me. Am I crushing or not? Like, I don't know, compared to the rest of the world, you know? And so, like, at a certain point, I do like a timer, and I do like to understand what that looks like so that I can compare that to my peers to see if I'm competitive or not, even if it feels good. But most of my training, I use the timer for the start. I don't want timer to mess with my stress level. And so I start almost every single rep with the timer, but I don't really care what the time was. That way, that beep to me doesn't instigate panic. It instigates execution.
Perfection.
Because I don't really care. Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
So that's
man.
all.
If I was one of your buddies, I'd ask you what your time was, and I'd always tell you I was like 2/10 better, you know? Like, what'd you do it in 2.3? I was 2.1, man.
No.
Oh, you got to set.
Prove
You
it.
did it in 2.1. I was 1.9. You got to step your game up.
Send the video. Prove it. You got to show it. Show your work.
So do you ever calculate hit factor in your practice?
I don't. I know some guys do. I do. Or some folks do. I do not. You know, because my practice is really, my expectation is pretty much perfection. You know, like I want alphas. Like if it's outside Charlie, it's a miss in practice to me. You know, like if I'm sweating that delta line, like a delta's a mic and a Charlie is close to a mic, and I expect alphas. Again, I want to shoot on instinct, and if I train that way every day, then when I go to a match, like my mental acceptable sight picture is so much tighter than it needs to be, so I just get good hits. And you know, pretty much everything I shoot with hit factor is minor scoring. You know, so I'll shoot PCC, and you know, I'll shoot open minor, like for all my locals. I don't really shoot an open major gun because I shoot federal factory ammo, so that's all minor. And so, like, you need alphas. You have to shoot the middle of the target. There's not a scenario where you can get away with tons of Charlie deltas. And so hit factor to me is just like, well, if it's a short drill and I have anything but alphas, it's a problem. If it's a long drill and I have more than 1 or 2 Charlies, like a stage, it's a problem. Did I execute or not?
I'd love 2 Charlies a stage. I think that would be fantastic. I'd kill it.
Right? Yeah, that's solid.
I have another question.
Sorry. So in practice, you're basically, you're not necessarily comparing your times. You're shooting literally as fast as you see the dot in the alpha. And that's how fast that's as fast as you're going. Do you ever push that a little bit? Do you ever like, let's see how far I can go?
The wall, dude. When I shoot local matches, I shoot as fast as I possibly can. Like, well, let's see if I can push it a little bit here. You know?
Well, not in a match, but in a practice.
Well, it's a local. Local is a practice, you know?
No, Mike.
So I do in both practice and match. So I will say, let's say I've got my 3 weeks. Just came home from a major, however that went, doesn't matter. I'm getting ready for another one on a new platform. Okay, let's say the next match is PCC. That first week is about execution, precision. I want to know my skills are there. I want to know my competency is at a level that I'm happy with. Okay. Week 2 of that 3 weeks, I'm going to spend some time and I'm going to push, and I'm going to try to grow that level of competency in that week. Week 3, forget about it. It's precise again. Like whatever I gained or didn't gain on week 2, forget about it. Now it's time to execute at that match. So yeah, I look for growth in phases. Like I'll have a speed phase in each training camp for each match. And that's where I'm pushing recoil management and grip more than anything, right? I mean, that is what's going to allow me to get the sights on target faster on the next target. And so, but I will push. I will find out if I can stretch, and often the answer is no. And so I need time to make sure I've dialed back to a point where I'm comfortable executing before that match, you know, that last week.
That's interesting.
As far as your vision,
hold on. You say the answer is often no. You've never thought that your speed can be something that you can improve on, that like maybe you need to just be okay with missing a bunch for a little while because to me, shooting slow and shooting fast feel totally different. And like if you're not going to be used to like the pop and like doing what you're doing, then it's not going to ever get faster. So that's why I'm always trying to push it at locals and stuff. Just, you know, like, let me see how fast I can get through this 3.
What are you doing though? No, go to a local with a goal. Go to a local with a goal. So like I'll shoot a local on week 2 and I will do that. And guys will be like, whoa, that didn't go well. Right? And like you got to be able to check pride at the door because I'm pushing really hard during that week. But the week before my major, I expect, you know, if I have more than 10 or 15 Charlies.
But I'm talking about like, what if you stay committed to doing that for, you know, a month, 2 months, and then
basically shoot like Mike says.
You think that you think, I'm serious though, do you think that you get better at you know, just being that much faster versus giving it 1 week of your 4 in a month to say, let me see if I can get faster?
I don't think so.
No?
No, I do that this first month. Like right now I'm ramping up and I'm pushing hard constantly. Sure. But if you have an event to compete in and you crush your confidence by throwing mics all day long because you want to push speed, now you get to that event and you don't trust yourself. You don't trust your execution. And so now if you don't trust yourself, you're going to throw a third shot on 3 targets on that stage. And I don't care how fast you shot because you got a bunch of extra makeup. And so like it's a lot of it's a mental game. And it's like, okay,
self-image.
Like, I need to feel confident. Call those shots. Know that my execution is there. And if I'm pushing speed too hard to the point where I didn't see dot on center of target when I pulled trigger and know it's there, now all of a sudden in my major match, I'm not going to know it's there. Like you will end up competing in a major match the way you train. And if you train precise and shoot alphas, you will shoot that way in a major if you get your head straight, get your mental management dialed in for that match. But if you shoot mics all the time in practice, you will shoot mics all the time in your matches. Like that's what I've seen, you know, shooting around a bunch of guys that shoot a lot of mics.
Yeah, I always just say I'm getting my money's worth when I'm shooting 3. You know, like I came here to shoot.
But the problem is, Mike, you shoot 3 and still get 2 mics on it. So it's like,
right, yeah. Sometimes. Hey, you know, I'm always going for it. You know, it's always full send.
So Josh, what do you see when you're picking out your spot on a target? What is the area you're aiming at? How big is that area? And does it change?
Yeah, got it. So it does change depending on the difficulty. So if I'm shooting something, you know, inside of 10 yards and it's match speed, I'm shooting acceptable sight picture as an alpha, right? And anything in there is fine. And I'm just cutting loose. I am shooting pretty hard and fast. But now I get to that 20 or 30 yard popper, and the acceptable sight picture is the center of the knockover zone, if you will. Because if I miss then, I miss my acceptable sight picture, I still get a hit. Where, you know, if you're aiming at steel and you miss, you might have been 2 inches off. If you'd aimed at center, you'd still get your hit. And so like the more difficult target, the more precise I expect the sight picture to be. Where stuff up close, I'll just hammer, you know, and it's probably right there.
So roughly how large would you say your spot is on a more difficult target that you're picking out with your eyes?
Yeah, so if you think the bolt on the target on some of them, right, like you've got like in a 1-inch bolt on the target, or you've got, you know, something like that. It's probably about that size.
This is where I go back. Hold on. This is where I go, but you're shooting a 6 MOA sight though. So like if you put a mini popper at 40 yards, your 6 MOA sight is covering the mini popper pretty much. So like you're just putting like
false. You don't know what MOA means.
I'm telling you, man. I don't know. That 6 MOA sight to me was always so huge, and like for me, it always took up the entire alpha zone when the target was a little bit far away, and I was like, I can't stand knowing where I am in the alpha. I see the whole thing.
No. 6 MOA covers 6 inches at 100 yards, covers 3 inches at 50 yards, covers an inch and a half at 25 yards. It covered an inch and a half, not the alpha.
I don't know.
You can definitely be precise.
I don't know. See,
it's pretty close to the size of a focal point at that distance. So the human eye focal point is about that same size. So it's not really even worth having it any smaller.
The MOA sight is huge. Like I'm shooting a 2
at that distance,
like
though.
Perfect. It was like just a nice dot in the middle of the alpha zone that I could see where I was shooting. But the 6,
the human eye cannot focus any smaller than that at that distance, is what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter if it's any smaller at that distance.
Young eyes, what do you want, you know?
So do you have
Okay.
any sponsors that you didn't talk about yet?
Oh, there's a
Yeah, I've
list.
got
There's a whole list.
bunch
You
of
know,
great
I
partners.
like, yeah.
So I would say I've learned a lot about sponsorships over the last 8-9 years, and I end up partnering with companies that I think are cool people and have cool product. And then even if someone were to offer something super exciting, if I didn't think they were cool people or cool product, at this point I would just pay cash because you know, like I want to be aligned with the right folks. And so yeah, I've got great partners around all kinds of things, you know, whether it's mag pouches, you know, I work with LAG Tactical, and, you know, like the extensions on my mags from Taylor Freelance, you know, like they make really nice stuff, and they are also cool people, right? And so like I've got a bunch of great partners in pretty much all over the hunting space, all over the competition shooting space that I work closely with on product development. Again, you know, I really don't have any of those partners that you think of as like the first year traditional shooting sponsor. Like I end up working with them. I do R&D for them. I beat on their product. I tell them when it breaks. I do marketing for them. I produce content for them. I represent them at events. You know, like so. Yeah, I end up working with lots of cool brands, and it's a lot of fun. It's a cool thing to be part of something that you're excited about. What I let new folks kind of in on is it's going to be real frustrating or difficult if you just chase the free thing, because nothing's free, right? If it is, it's not worth it. But you like figure out what you want, figure out what you like, figure out what you think is cool that you would buy with your cash. Like, what would you buy? Okay, if you would buy that thing, now that's maybe a thing that you should represent, because hey, you know, you would put your money where your mouth is. Like, they make good things. And the closer you're aligned to that with your sponsors or your marketing partners, the more you're going to enjoy what you do. And then beyond that, like, you have to figure out as a shooter, as a person, let's call it that, as a person, you need to figure out, like, how do you enjoy giving value back? Like, what does that mean for you as the shooter, as the representative of a brand? Like, what do you enjoy? Does that just mean you just want to shoot? You just want to, you know, like, show the stuff off? You want to take some pictures? You want to do some stuff like that? Cool. You want to go to events? You want to represent them there, whether that's shows or matches? That's cool. You want to create videos? You want to create media? You want to host events? Like, whatever the thing is that you think would be fun to do, like, figure out how to add value for your partners with it, right? And then don't stretch yourself in areas that you don't want to do it. I used to do a podcast, and I enjoy talking and I enjoy coming on shows, but I did not enjoy the podcast, hosting it myself. And so I was like, well, this is not fun. And so I stopped because I just, I wasn't having fun. You got to figure that piece out, right? And we all do. And for everyone, those are different things. Some people would think it's nuts to get a video crew out and do a bunch of videos that, you know, like, that's what I do. I love it. And so, like, figure out how you want to add value for the company, figure out which companies you'd buy the stuff anyway. And those are the ones that you should do what you want to do for, and figure out what the value is.
That's
So did you seek out your sponsors, or did you just let them come to you? How did that? Because I know you you did the Vortex thing, but are all your sponsors, you kind of contacted them first? Is that how you did it?
They are. I mean, I've had lots of companies that have talked to me. You know, there's a couple of them that I didn't reach out to, but they asked me to try their stuff. And I was like, wow, this is better. Like, I referenced IWI earlier, right? Like, I was shooting a different gun. Distant Arms built the old gun and builds the new one but the IWI platform was better, and he wanted me to try it. And I was like, well, okay, I'll try it. You know, whatever, sure. This guy, he's a good dude. So I'm like, okay, I'll shoot your gun. And so I shot the gun, and I was like, okay, that is better. You know, I was like, yeah, I'll shoot your gun. Like, let's go. Let's do it. You know, so some of it is like, yes, there's certainly brands that I want to be affiliated with, and I go after them. And I go after them with value. Like, here's how I want to add value for you. Like, with a small ask on the front end, something small. work hard for it, and then deliver value, and then the next year that'll grow. Other brands come to me, and I'll evaluate the product, and I'll have some meetings with them. If they're cool people and they have a product that's as good or better than something that I'm shooting, I'll entertain a conversation. But like I'm real careful not to chase something that I don't understand or that I don't know enough about. And I think that's positioned me pretty well to, I've had good and bad partners over the past. I've had companies that didn't pay me. I've had companies that didn't do what they said they were going to do, while the whole time I always did what I said I was going to do. And so I'm going, find the people you want to work with, find the products you want to use. And if you can't put those in the lineup, cut a check, buy yourself. You'll be way better off.
Ramen noodle diet.
Yeah, basically.
I am sponsored by ramen noodles.
Yep.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to talk about? Maybe some of your endeavors, plans that you have. What do you have coming up that you'd like to share with our audience?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say the training thing at the farm this year is probably the big piece, right? One of the things we do really well is customer service and customer experience. That's just what I do. Again, sales and marketing guy. I'm all about the experience for the individual and for the partners that align with me. And so I think, and it's right now you're going to have to put some faith in me. After our April event, you'll see. Is the short answer, because our media crew's here all weekend. We're going to put out 50 pieces of content. Everybody that comes is going to get content for their channels. We're doing something different. This is different than what is out there today. And so, but we're putting all the things we learned over the last, my whole life into play here to execute in a different way. And so I would say, if any of the events that we're going to host at our facility up here are interesting at all to the viewer, come give us a shot. You will enjoy it. You will have fun, because this is a different thing. This is something new. And when you leave here, you will have a story to tell, because we're going to have fun. We're going to shoot a lot. Whatever ammo you think you'd shoot in a day, bring double, because we're going to shoot it. Super hands-on. And then with our brand affiliations and sponsorships, we're doing giveaways and all kinds of cool stuff. So
awesome.
We're going to do something neat out here this year. Yeah, it'll be cool. And then events, I'm excited to get out on the road again this year for the events that I'm going to shoot. I'm going to shoot 3-gun the first half of the year, because while I do bounce around a little bit throughout the course of the year, I like to kind of pick a focus area and a focus match or two for the year, and then I build my season around it. So, for instance, this year I'm shooting multi-gun nationals in March here, and I will be grossly unprepared with all of our cold weather compared to the rest of the country. But it's fine. I'll go shoot with these guys, and it should be all right. And then I'm gonna shoot a couple more 3-gun matches, like Texas and 3-gun championship and Vortex JP Tri-Gun up here in Minnesota in June. So the first half of the year is 3-gunning, and that'll be fun. And then the second half of the year, I go into a carbine focus, which, I still shoot all the things, but my big matches, I'm shooting 3 AK matches and 4 PCC matches this fall. And so I like shooting those things in conjunction with each other, if you will, because they're pretty similar. They both recoil in a similar way. They're both carbines. I run the same handguard, same grip on both guns, same dots on both guns. So I could they're almost interchangeable for me. And so shooting a ton of carbine this fall, which would be fun. And the goal is to redeem myself from last year's PCC Nationals and come back and crush. So that'll be good.
Mike, did you have something you wanted to say about that?
Well, I just, I don't know if now you're kind of leaving people hanging that didn't go to nationals and they don't know what happened at nationals.
I'm not shy. My first major match DQ, and it was an odd stage, but totally my fault. there were 2 boxes and there were 6 targets. Okay. And you would start in one box and you'd shoot all the targets. You'd move to the other box with a reload, shoot all the targets. And then after you completed that first string, you'd go back the other way, weekend. Okay, so weekend carbine shooting with a reload in the middle. And when I brought my hand up to hit the mag release on the gun with my left hand, which I don't do often, again, one of those things you shouldn't do is do something new at a major match. You should probably practice that. I came up and missed, trigger. And so I ND'd at that major match. Into the berm, sure, but like sent around, I didn't plan to during a reload. And it was what it was, going too fast. I'm used to being able to do all my manipulations without looking down and just send one. So was shooting a pretty good match too.
Yeah, I know.
So
Just
Oh man.
pretty good.
That sucks.
Wasn't winning. or anything.
It happens to
I
everyone.
was pulling for you. Dude, I was pulling for you too, and then when that happened, that the news rippled around the range that Josh DQ'd. It was I felt so bad for you, dude, because you were.
Well, then it's not even fun to win anymore if there's no
you
if
didn't.
there's no heat you're competing against.
You didn't win. Josh
But,
just
Josh, and I'm not going to
defeated
elaborate on this any further because I know you know what I'm talking about. A win is a win. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, I took second at that match, second to Max, the last 3 years, and it's been a focus area. I want to beat Max. He's a good buddy of mine, but it's one of those things. I hate losing the guy, and I beat him at other matches, just not at this particular match, and so I'm going last year was supposed to be the year. I put plenty of reps in. I was shooting like a stud at that match. 2.5 days in the lead, led every day, and just sent one. So this year we're gonna crush, and it's gonna be
go for that right hand reload, man. Got to hit the right hand push button, right hand mag in.
The Max
Yeah,
Lee
I got a plan.
Grandes. Josh is coming for you.
I get a plan. Yeah, he's coming here. He's coming here about a month and a half before we're going to co-instruct
Nice.
PVC class. And I mean, like I said, he's a good dude. I've stayed at his place at nationals when there was in Utah. I'd stay with the guy. He's a buddy of mine. Doesn't make us any less competitive. I still want to beat him, of course.
I love how intelligently nerdy he is. He's such a science geek. I just love it.
No, I like Max a lot. The only thing that annoys me is that he's so nonchalant about everything that he does, but he's so good at it. And it's just annoying. It's Max, can't you just care a little bit? He's yeah, well, just crushed it again. No big deal. Yeah, no, I guess it's no big deal. That was pretty amazing what you just did, but
His trigger finger manipulation is insane. He can move his fingers so fast.
It's silly, yeah.
He's crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, good dude. Yeah, I like that whole crew. There's about 10 of us that butt heads at a lot of that stuff.
But in a fun way, right?
Yeah.
You butt heads in a fun way.
Yeah, I don't think. You guys never really mess with each other because we were talking about this on one of our first podcasts. You guys never mess with each other to hope somebody does bad. You don't tell somebody a bad stage plan that you're not actually going to run. Do you screw with people that way? I always want to see people shoot the best they can because then I usually shoot better that way. Yep. So kind of hope you crush it, but then in the back of their head, you do want to win. So it's I hope you shoot a 9 hit factor and I have a 901. That's all I really want. I don't care how much I win, but I just want to win.
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever hide your stage plan?
Do you ever hide your stage? I told him straight out. So Josh was doing stage walkthroughs at nationals, and I just came up and I was he's hey, how you doing, buddy? I'm just here to get your stage plans. Straight up. I don't think that it bothers him at all because I think that he just thinks he's going to win. But do you care?
Yeah. No, I don't say I hide it. With that said, I probably don't change when I should at times. So I find a plan that I want to execute, and I'm shooting that, and then I'll talk with a couple other guys. Max, Scott, Green, and I all shot together at nationals, and we debated some plans. And sometimes guys on the squad want to debate, and I'm you guys shoot what you guys are going to shoot. We'll see how it all plays out. It'll be fun. I'll shoot it a different way. You shoot it that way. We'll see where we end up. But it you know, like, no, there's nothing malicious. It's just we all want to win. And so, like, we'll share our plans. We'll talk through it. We'll, you know, one of the things I appreciate about Max actually is they talk about his, like, intelligence, kind of like nerdy intelligence in a positive light. He'll challenge me on stuff, and he'll be like, well, why do you think that's better? And I'll be like, in my mind, like, he'll challenge me in ways, in a positive way. And, you know, it's fun. So I enjoy the guy. I enjoy that crew. And, yeah, we have good discussions, good debates about the best way to do things. And we've all found ways that seem to work pretty well for us, and end up doing our thing, and ends up pretty close in the end. So
Yeah, it really shows just how much it does come down to execution, unless you find some weird loophole, like skipping a position that's going to save you 3 seconds. And then you have to change your plan once you see it.
Although, do you, Josh? Do you change your plan when you see that?
Yeah.
I'm at a point in my career now where mentally, if I have I have a line, and that line is 4 shooters. If I have 4 shooters between me and when I shoot, and I see something that is drastic improvement over what I had planned, that just kind of surprised me, I need to be able to put my feet on the stage. So in IPSC, I wouldn't, because I need to be able to see it. Because in IPSC, you get your walkthrough on the front end, you get your walkthrough when you're the next shooter up. I would never change there at that point. But in USPSA, I'll have another walkthrough or 2, right? I'll hustle out there, reset something quick, and then I'll just get a quick glance at it, you know, without getting in the next shooter's way, to make sure it's truly superior. And if I've got 4 shooters, I'll change something. Yeah, not the whole thing, but, like, you know, this target or that target, or maybe one quick position or one quick movement. Yeah, I'll change it up if I've got time to look at it again.
Yeah, it has to be a significant gain, though, for it to be worth it.
Yeah, and even still, like, I'm going to make that decision with, you know, 4 shooters left. I'm going to get a quick glance at it, and then I'm going to be all in or not in, because there's no hemming and hawing. If you get up close to that line and you're about to shoot, like, you're in trouble if you don't have it locked in. And I wouldn't suggest the new shooter even consider that. I would suggest the new shooter that's already having trouble remembering where all the targets are, just shoot the way you plan, because it'll be better. Because I've seen it go so horribly wrong. Whole arrays missed, forgotten about, like, bad day stuff. So, like, I would say that's 5 years in, like, you feel really good about shooting well type maneuver to change your stage, you know, with a few shooters to go.
Well, I think we have a lot of golden nuggets on this episode.
Yeah. I literally wrote some notes down, so just so you know.
Yeah. This has been great.
Mike, if you haven't shot Shoot the Alphas,
always learning, man, you know.
Grant, Mike, do you guys have any last minute things for Josh before we go?
Well, unless you as a federal sponsor shooter want to talk about our dumb 30 super carriers, then no.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thanks for coming on the show, man. You know, it was really cool having you come on and awesome stuff with shooting, and I know we appreciate it, and hopefully everybody that watches also appreciates it. And April 9th and 10th, right? And then June 25th, 26th, something like that, are your 2 classes. And yeah, I'd say if you want to come shoot with us, there's going to be something going on. Just look it up. And so, you know, like, you might not own an open shotgun. Okay, that's okay. You want to come out and learn with guys that know how to run them well? We've got loaner guns for you. Like, you want to try something new that you don't do and get instruction from people that do know what's going on, like, come play. You know, we're breaking training out. I have only a couple things in the registration. I have your name, your contact information, and novice or expert. Okay, and don't get worried about pride. Like, if you shoot a lot of that thing, write expert. If you don't shoot that thing, put novice. That's cool. What that means is it gives me some clarity on which group you should be in, because we're breaking out into small groups all day when folks are here. And so, like, I've got 5 folks that don't own a dissident gun but are going to use them when they come here. They've never shot one.
cool. They're in their own group. I've got some pros, like legit pro shooters coming in the same class that don't have to deal with that. And we can work on super high level stuff because I know who's coming and I can group them accordingly. And so any skill level, like you took, you're a top 10 guy, sweet, will add value. You've never shot a match before, sweet, will add value. Like, don't get worried about it. If you want to come shoot with us, we'll make it cool for you.
And then you get the cool dude test, the cool dude interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, short and sweet. Just make sure you're not trouble before we invite you out to the range.
Oh yeah, Josh, it was really awesome to chat to you. Hopefully I'll make it out to some kind of shoot there in the States and we'll bump into each other and talk there. Maybe you can come down to South Africa and do some hunting, shoot some stuff, and then, shoot a match.
Yeah.
Because apparently we do that.
Shooting and eating animals is one of my favorite things. So.
Oh, you do?
The kudu is my favorite.
Come down south here.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, hey,
Cool.
have a nice day, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Yep. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks.
Here we are.